If you're wondering whether or not the STI is gonna be the replacement for the M340, well, it is. And let me explain why. Right off the bat, this car needs a couple things done. A, it needs a wash, and B, it needs a little bit of service, as typical with Subarus. Hold on. Hey, can you give me a second? I'm recording.
No, it's a routine, but something you
Little girl, bring fire from the world. I'm trying, I'm lost, only murmur. Staying for the summer, staying for the summer. And we're 6 feet under, and I got that number. Gotta keep falling, falling like carousel. Known to brace hell like I'm Tyrion and chainmail. Give me head tail, see the jaw, face smile like a base head. You scared about both sides, and she do it well, so well, so well. Yeah, Raymond, ducking from the sun, doing okay then. All these feelings bottled inside like a house dog. Belly on the elbow, sugar out the house, playing up the foul ball. You can still go out loud, bring fire from the world. Pants okay, remember them rolling eyes, how they are fans okay. Hanging from grapevines, she want the juice now, she want it all right. Get it from you now, get it from you now. Little girl, drifting aside.
We got it all cleaned up. It actually cleaned up pretty well. It does need a paint correction really bad. There's a lot of water spotting on the back. Not sure if you can see that, but there is quite a bit of water spotting. But it's a good thing that is easily fixable. Other than that, the body's in, of course, immaculate condition. It's almost a brand new car. Did you open it?
No.
Did I open it?
Yeah.
Nope.
You can't open it?
No, I can open it, but nothing coming out. Oh, holy shit. A lot came out. It's a little bit dirty. Nothing crazy. Dude, the ones that came out of the other STI was like black.
Well, yeah.
But dude, the difference, okay, look. Come on, look at it. The difference between the fluid and there is not that much compared to that fluid.
Well, yeah. It's not a matter of changing out dirty fluid. It's a matter of changing out fluid that is, it's a matter of, because this fluid absorbs water out of the air. So that's why when people say they boiled their brakes, it's the water boiling out a solution. Keep her going. I wish this thing had paddle shifters.
Shut up.
I can't.
Dude, I don't know why. The last time I did this on the STI, it took forever.
Well, if you put air in it, it takes forever.
But I didn't.
Oh.
But I was also opening and closing it, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that when you got this special little bottle apparatus. But I had that bottle.
This has never been done. There we go. There we go. Easy money. This job has the high potential of making a huge mess. The outline on the fluid transfer pump popped off and spilled a bunch of fluid everywhere. And it's raining, so that doesn't make it any better. I think these are always car guys' favorite videos. That's right, exhaust videos. We're getting right into it today. I already have the STI up on the jack stands. I'm letting it cool off for just a second before we get started on the install, but take a look at this exhaust. This thing is absolutely insane looking. It is a full titanium catback, very similar to the Tomei. I know the Tomei is a very popular option, but I kind of wanted to try something a little bit different, and so that's why I chose the Noble. It comes with the silencer just like the Tomei, but we won't be needing that. Hopefully we don't run into any issues today. I totally blanked and I didn't order the adapter for the stock downpipe to the 3-inch catback, but I think we can make it work temporarily until I get that adapter. But I was just so excited to get this exhaust installed today. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. These hangers. Always the worst. Talk nice to me. Talk nice to me. It's huge. There we go. Woo! The factory mufflers are absolutely huge. Like, there's no need on a 4-cylinder that these mufflers need to be that big, but I guess I'm not the one that designs these cars, so. The only thing left to do is to get the factory mid-pipe off. It's like a mid-pipe, wide pipe, it's all one piece, but it's 2 bolts at the back, and then we'll get this off, and then we will get started on getting the new exhaust on. Well, dude, they're both barbed like hangers. They got a big old resonator. So, as you can tell, the reason why these things are so quiet from the factory is you got 2 big old mufflers and a big old resonator. So, we're about to fix that. So the Noble kit does not have a resonator, which might make it a little raspy, but we still have the stock downpipe. And there's 2 cats in the stock downpipe, so it should kind of quiet things up just a little bit. Then you have a really big muffler at the end. I need to clean off the titanium exhaust and then put some gloves on and start to install. So I kind of just went through and finished up the install. Catback exhausts are pretty easy to install, but I wanted to cut to the good part of what this actually sounds like. Honestly, not as loud as I thought it was gonna be. You can definitely hear the exhaust leak a little bit, but we'll fix that, don't worry. We're gonna get some flyby clips real quick. Yeah.
I'm away.
I think it sounds really good. It's not too loud. It's not like insanely quiet like the stock exhaust. It's got that nice Subi rumble. I realized that I kind of snaked you guys out of a cold start yesterday, so here it is. We made the STI sound good. Now it's time to make the STI look good by doing a paint correction. The World Rally Blue is hands down the best Subaru color. Definitely a fan favorite, but fortunately we have a lot of water spotting and etching and swirls. So it's time to fix that today and get this paint not only corrected, but ceramic coated. So after going through and doing a full decon wash in the car, it's actually not that bad. A lot of the water spotting came out with the clay bar and decon process. I like the Rupes system. It's what I used on the M340 when I paint corrected and ceramic coated that. I'm going to probably start with a yellow wool and yellow compound. And see how far that gets me. If I need to step it up on areas such as the trunk and rear deck lid, then I'll go to yellow pad and blue compound. And then finish off with white with pure compound, and then that will get us ready to apply the coating. The coating that I'm going to be using is Geon's Synchro coating. It consists of their Mohs Evo and then a skin that goes over the top of it. I'm super excited to try this coating. Apparently it gets a really glossy finish and it lasts, I think, 4 years. For the black cladding, I'm going with Geon's trim. You can apply this on pretty much everything. For stuff like down here, that's what I'm gonna put it on, and then the black window trim. So I've been working for a long time, really focusing on the back end of this car where a lot of the water spotting was, really hitting it hard with the 1-inch from Rupes, and we're not quite there, but it is looking pretty money, if I do say so myself. I'm not sure if it was visible on camera earlier, but the water spotting was really bad on this car, so I'm super happy that the majority of it came out. The acid wash I did in the wash bays earlier really helped, so I think I'm gonna call it quits for tonight, pick this back up in the morning. So it's been a little bit since the last clip we filmed. These corrections, they take a long time. I believe in the last clip, which was yesterday or maybe the day before, I said that we were pretty much Gucci, ready to go. And then we pulled it out into the sunlight and it was just haze city. The entire car was hazed. The reason for this is because we went so aggressive on the cut, it hazed. And it was something that we did not see until we pulled it out under the sun. The sun is kind of like the telltale for, you know, it's the final judgment on these corrections. So we had to go through and we hit it with a white foam pad and Rupes white pure compound to kind of get some of that hazing out. We went through, did the whole car on that, pulled it out in the sun, and there was still hazing. We've gone through and we're wrapping up the final kind of polish to get the haze out. We just pulled it out just a second ago and found out that it looks good. It is just a learning process. It takes a lot of repetition and actually hands-on with the polisher to figure out kind of what works and stuff like that. So all things considered though, this paint looks pretty money. It'll look even better once we get the coating on it. Pretty much all the glass is done. I gotta finish up this side of the windscreen and then we will get this thing prepped and ready to go. So we are officially prepped and ready to go. It's dark outside. You can't see outside, but it is dark. We've been here a while working on this car. But the time has come to actually ceramic coat the thing. So let's get into it. For the coatings, I'm using a couple different coatings. I may have shown this earlier in the video, but I'm going with Geon's Synchro coating. This uses a Mohs base layer and then a skin layer over top of that. It's supposed to give like a super glossy finish. And it is a 4-year coating, which is super nice. And then for the plastic pieces, I'm going with Geon Trim. Essentially the same idea. It is for all the rear diffuser, and there's some black cladding up in the front, and all the trim around the windows, just to protect that stuff, to keep it from getting sun faded out here in Arizona. And then we're gonna coat the windows. But this car is looking good. So we could do like a little bit of a before and after on this trunk. If you remember from the beginning of the video, this trunk had so many water spots on it, and now it is pretty much perfect. There's still a little bit of etching, but unless we really chase it with some wet sanding or something like that, probably not gonna get those out without risking damaging the clear coat. So I'm gonna throw you guys up on a tripod, and then we're just gonna get this coating done and wrap this car up finally. So after, what is it, 2 hours? Spent 2 hours.
2 hours? Oh, coating.
Coating. 2 hours coating. It's 11 o'clock. We're finally done. And this thing looks like glass. It looks so much better than when we first started. So the Synchro, like I said, it works in 2 different coats. You have your Mohs base layer and then your skin top layer. The skin is actually, it goes on super like thick. But it flashes just as fast, so you got to be quick with the buffing. I'm super excited to see how this looks tomorrow when it cures. So with some movie magic, it'll be tomorrow in 3, 2, 1. Look at that. It looks super good. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. It's kind of hard to tell over camera, but a lot more glossy. The paint is super slick. It looks great. Definitely the best color you can have on a Subaru, hands down. The classic World Ride Blue. It just looks great from all angles. I even went and I coated the exhaust tip. Not that it makes a huge difference, but it'll be nice to keep that tip clean. I'm almost like kind of embarrassed to show it, but I've been running these tires into the ground since I got the car, and it's time for a replacement. They are pretty much bald, and we have a plan for some new tires, but if I'm gonna get new tires, might as well get new wheels, right? And I think the set of wheels I got for this car, you guys are gonna like. As you can see on the box, got some Apexes. Now I've kind of already cheated and I've already checked these out, but here they are. Woo! The SM10RS in Motorsport Gold. I figured since we went World Rally Blue on the STI, we had to match it with some gold wheels. I know everyone does gold wheels with a blue car, but it really is the best combo in this car. This is a little bit different of a gold than your typical like gold, which I kind of like it. It's more of a champagne color. It's really awesome. Check that out. Now, these are a 18 by 9.5 plus 40, which is the recommended spec for the STI on a stock body. It should be more of a flush fitment with the fender, and it'll look especially good when it comes time to lowering it. Enough yapping, let's get these on the car. So the tire guy's gonna be here any minute now. I went ahead and made his job a little bit easier and got the wheels and tires off, and it's bad. I mean, I'm down to the wear marks. There's nothing left on these tires. This is the tire we're gonna be going with. It is the Yokohama Advan Apex in a 265/35/18. These are gonna look nice. I like the thicker sidewall profile. They're kind of flatter fitment. I think on this car with the all-wheel drive, it's gonna look super sick. He's over here. He's already got one of the wheels up. Then you're ready to go. I'm super pumped. This is gonna look awesome. Woo! Motorsport Gold with the World Rally Blue. Gotta be the best combo. I'm gonna go through and get all four on, and then we'll check it out. I'm pumped. These are gonna look good. I'm so excited to see this thing on the ground. I can imagine that the offset is gonna be quite perfect. I mean, it makes sense. These wheels are spec'd for this car specifically, so I think it's gonna turn out super cool. This has gotta be the best wheel and tire setup on the STI, hands down. It just is. Changed my mind. I know that, so before I show you, fitment is still a little off, but I'm gonna change that. But just appreciate the wheel and tire setup. It looks so good. The Apex Motorsport Gold goes perfectly with the World Rally Blue. It's a nice mix-up from the standard gold that usually comes on when people run gold wheels. So happy with the way this turned out. That's a thumbnail right there, if I've ever seen one. So I definitely think that once we lower it, it will look a lot better, but you can tell that the offset and fitment is there. Little bit of poke. I really wanted an immediate setup with this, and I think I got it. I'm really happy with the way this looks. Definitely needs to be lowered a lot in the front. Back's not too bad, but still needs to be lowered. But these look really good. Color is perfect, in my mind. So, as for specs, I'm not sure if I've shared it before, but this is a 18 by 9.5 plus 40 offset with a 265/35, obviously 18 Yokohama. These are the Advan Apex V601s. It's a max performance tire, I believe, and I like the sidewall profile. As I said before, I wanted something pretty meaty, and I think we got it. I'm super excited to see how these drive. I know they're gonna feel so much better than the stock wheels and tire setup we had before. There was nothing left on those OEM tires, and the stock wheels are super heavy. Like, I think these wheels with the tires on them are lighter than the stock wheels, if that kind of puts things into perspective for you. What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are finally getting rid of the monster truck fitment on the STI. The rally look isn't bad, but that's not what I want to do with this car. So today we got a brand new set of coilovers that we're going to be installing. I went ahead and I picked up a set of BC Racing coilovers. Now these are a custom spec. They are the DS series coilover, which if you don't know the difference between the DS and the BR is a linear piston setup, whereas the DS is a digressive piston setup. This is the piston setup that is on a lot of the coilovers, such as the Fortunato and the Öhlins, I believe, and the HKS2. There's a lot of science behind it, but basically allows for good performance on the track without the harshness on the street, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I also got the Swift Spring upgrade, which we just put on just a little bit ago. Super easy to do. All you have to do is unscrew both the bottom mounting bracket. I don't even know what it's called. You basically remove everything below the spring, and then the spring will come off the shock this way. You slide it back on, reset your preload. The preload on these shocks is about 5 millimeters, or you can just use the width of the wrench, which is what we did. And these Swift springs look a lot better in my mind. You can't tell me that the gold springs do not look pretty cool. So we are 8K all around, just like the factory setup. I didn't want anything too harsh, because like I said, we do like performance out of the cars, but we don't want something that's an absolute pain to ride all the time, especially with the roads here in Tucson. So we're gonna get the car jacked up and get started on this install.
Now do it.
If you don't know what an eccentric bolt is, it's basically a bolt that allows camber adjustment. So you have a lobe on the bolt, so as you rotate it in the hub, it pushes the hub in and out. It's pretty simple, it's pretty rudimentary. It doesn't offer you a whole lot of adjustment as far as camber wise, but that's why on the new coilovers we have camber plates, which will allow us a lot more adjustability when it comes to camber. There is a bolt that holds the brake line onto the strut, as well as the ABS line is clipped in on the side. You want to make sure that you do those first before you start dropping the knuckle and the hub, because you don't want to rip those out of place. That would be a really bad day. So we did the top bolt, but we waited to do the bottom bolt, so we're going to get these undone first, and then we'll go ahead and drop the hub.
Yeah, dude, the clips are actually terrible.
I feel like I'm breaking more than I'm ever taking out.
Oh, 100%.
Or I just break them to take them out.
But this sucks because it's like, it's the ABS connector, so.
Don't want to light on your dash forever.
Yeah, or just, I would
It
like.
would be nice for them to work.
It'd be nice to have ABS. That's kind of a nice thing to have.
So you can get
Got it. So on the bottom one, it's not eccentric, so it doesn't really matter how it's oriented. But this is the bottom knuckle bolt. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna lower the knuckle and the hub assembly very slowly. Oh! Ah! Oh, it's not going.
Oh no. I think it's just friction on.
Yeah, it's held in there.
There you go. It did something.
Stuff like that. Okay, sweet.
What's that?
I can put some upward pressure on it to take the load off.
Sure. Oh, I just lost one. Do you have a magnet thing? I can still see it.
Yeah, we'll get in just a second.
I'll try to hold on to that.
Alright. Pull it out. Just like that. It's easy. Go ahead and comparing both the shocks. The OEM struts are pretty big. If you haven't already gathered that, Here's the new BC setup. We're going to kind of compare height and kind of make them as similar as we can, and then we can lower it from there once we get it on the car. So we're gonna go ahead and do that and then start installing the new strut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got the strut all in. We're definitely gonna have to raise it up. You can tell just by looking at the droop on the other side that this thing is gonna be slammed. So we're definitely gonna have to raise it. I'm gonna leave it like this just because I'm kind of curious to see what it looks like. We're gonna go through and just get the other driver's side done. Now that we've kind of showed this, there's no point in showing it twice. So we're just gonna go through and get it all done. We had to go and run and buy some tools because apparently my torque wrench does not go past 100 foot-pounds. We're kind of ballparking alignment and ride height. I'm going for 1 finger gap on the fenders. I think that'll be usable. It'll be something that'll look good and it won't be scraping all over the place. The chassis still sits pretty low, so you can't go too much lower without running into scraping on a bunch of stuff, especially with the road conditions that we have here in Tucson. So for the rear, it's not too bad. We did have to pull out all the trunk mat and everything, but under here you have both of the top hat bolts. There's just 2, and then on the lower half you have to pull out the bolts on the lower control arm. There's 3, one that connects to the knuckle, the strut, and then your sway bar end blink, I believe. And then the lower control arm will swing down, and then we can drop the strut from there.
And you can't drop it if not.
You want to get the jack for me?
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
And it's full of oil.
Yo, mammy.
I won't say that.
Coming from this side?
I can't. I just need it under the hub. Not the hub, the rotor. You know what I meant, damn it.
You have a sway bar you need to take it off? You probably need to loosen this one so you don't.
Oh shit, we're gonna need the 14 wrench. Oh, you're so smart, bro.
It's all that coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're done.
You can just bring it up farther.
Ow.
Dude, this is like totally out of frame.
Really?
No.
Oh, you're on smoke today. I don't know why. Don't tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm not doing anything wrong, man.
Throw a Hellcat motor in it.
Why does I feel like I'm not tightening it? Like I'm just spinning it.
Oh, well, you're not spinning it. I wouldn't do that to you. That's a pretty asshole move.
It literally feels like
come up here.
Are you gonna break that fucking bolt?
No, dude, it doesn't feel like it's tightening. It just feels like it's spinning.
It's probably stretching.
Alright, wait, chill.
Yeah, it feels like it's just...
Unless the bottom bushing
It's spinning in the...
no is smaller than the control arm on the other one. No, it's...
No, this doesn't feel right, bro. We have ride height loosely adjusted. I went for about a finger gap all around, so hopefully we'll see where it sits when we lower it. But without further ado, let's get it lowered.
Oh, right up there too. That kind of looks like it's settling a little bit.
It's definitely lower.
The front's definitely lower. I think this settled a little bit more.
I'd say I want to lower it. Let's get the tape measure out. So we're like, this is an exact measurement. We're like right at 14. All right, so this is kind of what we have going on here. I'm pretty happy with it. We're a little bit higher in the rear than we are in the front. But all the springs will settle a little bit and I may have to do some adjustment. I'd say if anything, I might go a little higher in the front, but we're still sitting at, you know, a 1 finger gap at least. So we'll see how it rides. We haven't done anything to camber. All we've done is we've used the factory eccentric bolt, kind of get it to what it was before we took everything off. I don't feel comfortable messing with alignment yet, so I'm just gonna get to a shop and they can do the whole alignment themselves and get it dialed in. All right, here we go. So far it feels pretty good. It definitely feels, I would say the dampening level that we have right now, very similar to stock, which is not a bad thing. I'd probably bump up dampening just a little bit, but it feels pretty good.
Still scoots.
I would say it feels stiffer. I'll play around with the damping. I might bump it up a little bit. So we set the dampening right at halfway at 15. So there's 30 clicks total, but we set it to 15 right in the middle just to see where we wanted it. But I'll probably bump it up to maybe like 17 or 20. I don't want to go full damping. We're still on 8K spring, so that's probably why. I don't know what the stock spring rate is, but I think it's pretty close to 8K. See if it rubs on full lock. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Not too bad. We are getting right into today's video with the install of this Cobb carbon fiber intake. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. It's time to finally do some power mods on the STI, and what better way to do it with probably one of the most favorite mods amongst car guys, an intake. And not just any intake, this is Cobb's SF carbon fiber intake. This is the red line. Red line kind of stands for their carbon fiber series of parts. They make some other engine bay dress up for the STI, but their biggest part in this line is their intake. We have the intake here, all the hardware for it, and then we also have the most important part, which is the access port, but I will get into that a little bit later. Hopping right into it, we're gonna get started on removing the stock intake. We're gonna start with this snorkel and then move on to the actual air box and the MAF sensor, and basically everything from here over is getting replaced with this super nice carbon fiber unit. And the snorkel just pops out like that. Then we have two hose clamps, one here, one here. Now I'm going to get this bracket, which we will not be reusing again. Lastly, there's a 10 mil down here on the frame rail, and then pull these out of the way. Box. And then your inlet. So your stock intake consists of three parts. You have the actual box itself with the filter, you have the snorkel, which slides in like that, and then you have the actual inlet hose that goes to the actual turbo inlet that goes under the manifold. So I have all the parts laid out for the intake. We have all the hardware. We have the actual velocity stack right here. It's really cool. They give you like this pre-cut set of gaskets. I'll kind of show you how those go on in just a little bit. And then you have a couple of plates. They're like this CNC machined. I believe they're aluminum. Everything that Cobb makes is really good quality. I'm pretty sure every single one of you that has been in the Subaru world has heard of Cobb before. They've been around for a long time, and they're not just in the Subaru world. They're in the Volkswagen, the Porsche, and the Ford community as well. But everything they make is super cool. So starting out, we have to get the various gaskets, different spots. There's one big ring that goes on the inside of the intake right here. You have one that goes on this right here, which I don't think we'll use because we're not going to be installing this block off plate. Then you have a couple of various gaskets that go on your mounting bracket so they don't scratch up the carbon fiber, which is really cool. Like I said, the first one is the one that goes around the inside of this ring. So you do have to line up the holes as best as you can. Next one for us is the gasket that goes on this little bracket here. And then the last one is also on this larger bracket. It's right there, like that. So now our next step is to do a little bit of pre-assembly before we install the intake. So I'm gonna go through, get that done, and then explain it to you guys when I'm finished. Okay, so I've got pretty much everything ready to go into the car. So what happens is you have your velocity stack with your filter that is on the end of it inside here. You have that big circular CNC plate that holds that into the actual intake body itself. And then you have your MAF sensor along with the actual intake silicone coupler that is basically the same thing as this stock piece. So there's a little bit of engine bay prep that needs to be done before the intake actually goes in, because you basically install the intake fully assembled and there's a couple of brackets that need to be installed and then we will get it in, but it should be pretty quick. First things first, we're going to loosen up the radiator mounts. So the next part is a little bit tricky, and I'm 1000% gonna drop the bolts into the engine bay, which is gonna suck. But I don't even know what they're called. They're basically nipples for the grommets that we installed into the intake box, basically. And it's what is going to hold the intake in place. And they go into these holes in the top of the front core support. What I've gone ahead and done is just taped it to the end of this Allen key. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier to get in there. Now we take this piece on there like that. There we go. We have to remove a bolt back here, and then we have to reinstall our original intake box bolt right here so that we can mount this bracket for the new intake. So we have it loosely in place down there, but now it's time to actually get the intake installed. So there's a grommet on the bottom of the intake that sits in that rubber bushing. This one right here. So we're gonna have to sneak the intake in through the top and then kind of tilt it in and get it onto the turbo inlet. Just like that, it's in. Other than that, the last step is to replug our MAF sensor in like that. And just like that, it's finished and it looks so sweet. Now, there is still one crucial element left in this puzzle, and that is this right here. If you're unfamiliar with what a Cobb access port is, it's a small little box that sits in the car, and it allows you to load custom maps onto the car as well as view specific engine parameters such as coolant temp, oil pressure, stuff like that that are already built into the engine from the factory. It's a super useful tool. They're very popular in the Subaru community, and it is essential when installing parts such as intake that interfere with, or not interfere, but mess with how the air flows through the motor. So you want to make sure you have the right calibration to go along with the car. Now, for just an intake, Cobb has their off-the-shelf maps, which is a tune designed for this specific part. So this will be the stage one SF Redline intake tune that they provide. It won't be this way for forever, but for right now, while we just have the intake, running the OTS map is super safe. Here we go with the access port. So first up, we need to install the access port. So I'm gonna click the first button right here, install. Gonna think for a second. So verify that it's in the on position, 2021 STI. Yep. Now, it's going to start off with all the maps that are available on the access port. So here at the top, it's Next Gen Stage 2 1050. That's for their Next Gen Flex Fuel Stage 2 package. We are going to scroll down to Stage 1 plus Big SF. They have maps specifically for Arizona, California, Nevada. Our gas here is a little bit different. It's actually the worst gas on the planet. Eventually when we go Flex Fuel, that'll change everything. But for right now, we are going to do the Stage 1 plus Big SF, ACN 91 octane. And we are going to load that. One thing that is super important when you reflash the car, let it idle for a few minutes, probably 5 or 10 minutes, so that the car can relearn again, and then do the same when you go out to drive. Make sure to just drive it gently, just regular cruising, so that the car can relearn all the parameters before you start to beat on it. So I'm going to let it relearn, and then in the morning we will go for a drive. So we have the map loaded up, and we are ready to go. Honestly, I'm not expecting for there to be like a huge speed difference. Or so I'm expecting it's going to be a lot cleaner and a lot more responsive and snappy than the factory tune. So I guess we will see. Definitely a lot more responsive than the factory tune, which is what I expected. I think you only gain about maybe 10 to 12 more horsepower, but the power band is a lot more responsive and you can actually rev it out, whereas in the stock configuration it kind of fell off a little bit up top. I don't know if the camera inside is going to pick it up, but hopefully the mic that I have mounted in the engine bay will pick it up. But it sounds pretty good. It definitely sounds good. It's not as loud as the intake on the 05 STI, but it definitely sounds good. Sounds good. The other cool thing that you can do with the access port is launch control. So you set it. So just another cool feature you can do. Sometimes these simple mods, these simple bolt-on mods are like the most fun just because they're super easy. You can do them at a weekend. You get immediate new results. So do they make the car that fast? No, they don't, but they are a lot of fun. Today we're going to be dialing in the looks of the STI with only OEM parts. Right here, I have the full STI under spoiler kit. That's what they call it, but it consists of a front lip, rear spats, and side skirts, and it all is matching black with the STI logos. I'm a huge fan of OEM Plus, especially on this car, with this car already being as aggressive as it is from the factory. I don't think it needs a bunch of crazy carbon and stuff like that, but that's just me. I'm just a big fan of the OEM Plus look. So what better than OEM Plus than actual OEM parts? And with OEM parts, the fitment should be spot on. So I'm super excited to get these on today. I think I'm going to start off with the side skirts, because in order to remove the side skirts, the car has to be on the ground, because you have to pull off the actual side under this whole side piece under the doors in order to get the new side skirts on. There's a series of pop clips underneath that you pull out, and then it should just pull right off. That came off so much easier than the M340s did. The first time I did the side skirts in the M340, it literally took me an hour to get the factory skirt off. The kit does come with, it comes with a bunch of bolts, but it also does come with templates, because we are gonna have to drill some holes for the rubber well nuts that are going into the bottom of the side skirt. It's super nice that from the factory, you get these nice little templates that show you exactly where you need to punch and drill holes. So I'm gonna go through, get the templates put onto the side skirts. They just throw on with some masking tape, and then we can mark the holes and get them drilled out. According to the instructions, you start out with a 3mm, and then a 6mm, and then all the way up to a 9.5mm. These are not in millimeters. These are actually a 5/32, a 1/4, and then a 3/8, but they are as close as you can get to 3/6 and 9.5, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I think they're like 2/10 off or something like that. It shouldn't be a huge problem when we go to install the bolts. I believe they install A to G, or maybe A to E from front to back. So I guess we'll kind of figure that out. A left hand. I'm not totally sure how these go on. Maybe like this. That seems about right. Man, these side skirts are disgusting. So they don't stick on, at least the ones on the side skirts don't. So you gotta tape them in place, but as soon as they're in place, it should be good to go. And then on each of these templates, there's a little crosshair right here where you use a punch to punch through a little mark, then you can start drilling, going up from 3, 6, and then 9. So this is B. So B goes right here. Okay, so now that I've gone through and got all the templates in place, our next step is to go through with this punch. It's the punch where you like press in and it clicks and it marks where the drill bit should go so that it doesn't walk when you start to drill. And then we will go up with our 3 drill bits all the way up to 9.5 or 3/8 to install the well nuts. Now, like I said, we are going up with 3 different drill bits. I actually marked them off with some electrical tape, as you can see, like that. That way, this plastic is super soft plastic, so if you're not careful, you will punch right through the other side and through the top of the lip, which we don't want to do. So I did wrap them with a little bit of electrical tape, so that way it kind of acts as a blocker, so that way we can only push the bit through so far. Now that they're marked, I'm gonna go through and get all the holes drilled, going up with the 5/32, the 1/4, and then the 3/8. Okay, so now that I've gone through with the last drill bit and got all the holes to size, we take these little well nuts and they hammer in to the holes, and then when a screw goes through them, they actually compress very similarly to how a rivet works. I'm gonna go through, I do kind of need to clean up the holes a little bit. For whatever reason, this drill bit really chews up the edge and it leaves all these burrs. I'm not gonna show you guys this. I'm just gonna get the side skirt on. That way we can move to the next one. It's really not that interesting, but with a little bit of camera magic, I can make it happen pretty quick. And just like that, we have the new side skirt installed. I think it looks really good. I think that I almost like it better, just the matte black, than the carbon. I don't know, I just think it suits the OEM Plus look a little bit better. I know it's super dark in here, but I think it looks really good. I really like the STI logo on the back here. I think it turned out pretty good. So this is a very similar process for the front lip. We have to go through, lay our templates, mark the holes, drill the holes, and then add all of our rubber riv nuts, and then we can install the front lip. I'm gonna go through it pretty quick, but the install is almost exact same as the side skirts, just now on the front lip. They do actually include 4 new pop clips, well actually 6 new pop clips, 2 of the same ones that we just used on the side skirts. The one thing that is nice about the front lip, the little crosses that we actually use to mark where we're going to drill are actually molded into the front bumper. We only have to lay 2 templates, one on either corner, and then everything else should be cut and dry, ready to drill. One thing I will say is make sure that you have like maybe plastic specific bits. I don't know what these bits that I'm using are designed for. It wasn't drilling the plastic, it was more like corkscrewing the plastic. And it was making like these really bad, like gnarly holes that I have to come through and like clean out and make sure that they were like nice and tidy. So just make sure that you're using better bits than me, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I always have the worst luck when it comes to front lips. On the M340, I barely had the lip on and I already broke it. I actually didn't even have the lip on and I already broke it before I got it. And the same thing happened with this lip again. I don't even know what happened. I'm not sure if it was shipping or maybe I just stored it wrong. Maybe it got twisted when I was pulling it out of the box. But I've already got a bend and a crease in the lip. This is just like FRP plastic. Like I just can't catch a break with this stuff. It's kind of a bummer, but it's not worth me trying to get a new lip for it. We're just gonna throw it on there, and I mean, it's a front lip. It's gonna get beat up and torn up anyways. So, but it's like, I can't even get the lip on like brand new clean without breaking it. This is 1000% better than the factory. Check it out. It just looks so much better with this lip. It's like the perfect level of aggressiveness, but also I think it's super clean. I really like the extensions out from here. It's a good balance of style and aggressiveness. I can't wait to see it on the ground. I'm hoping that we're not gonna have to get ramps to get under it with the lip. It's not too big of a lip, but we'll see. I guess we're about to find out. Oh, just barely. Woo! Just barely clears it by literally a quarter of an inch. Check that out though. That looks so much better. I think one of my biggest issues with a lot of the aftermarket carbon lips out there is that they come out so far. It's like you're driving a front loader out there, and I'm personally not a huge fan of that, but this lip, I think it's a really good balance. Pair with the side skirts, and then our last little bit here, the rear spats, it's gonna look really good. This thing looks so much better with this on. It's definitely not some like insane body kit that like totally transforms the entire car and it looks like a totally different car. But I think it adds so much to the way that the car sits, especially on the suspension setup that we have. From the factory, these cars ride and look like a rally car, which they're designed to be that. But the way that this sits right now, it looks so much more like a track car. It's so much more aggressive and it almost just looks more complete this way. That's what I think, at least. I definitely like how the whole kit just flows together. Like you have the line from here that comes around and then it continues into the side skirt. Then it comes all the way up to the front where it wraps around with that little edge there on the front lip. Obviously, it was designed to work with each other, but I just appreciate OEM stuff like that just works. I think in the morning, I'll pull the car out into the sun and get a little bit better look because it's definitely super dark in here. Hopefully with the new garage, we're gonna fix that. I really wanna like brighten up the area that I'm working in so that I can work at night, because honestly, the nighttime and the early morning is the best time to work, because other than that, it's just way too damn hot to do anything in the garage with these cars. Honestly, I don't know if there's a whole lot more that this car needs on the outside. I'm super happy with this thing, the way that this thing looks. It's just clean, it's simple, but it still looks really good. But with that, let's get a cold start. Now, I'm not a big audio nut, but what I have here, I believe, will be a substantial upgrade from the factory system in the STI. This isn't anything crazy, I'm not adding any amps or anything, but should give us a nice little bump in sound quality from the factory speakers. And when we pull out the factory speakers in this thing, you'll understand exactly why this sound system does not sound the best. Now, one of the most popular upgrades for the head unit in these cars is going to be this iDoing head unit. It's a full Android head unit with a massive screen. This is like a 9-inch screen or something like that. And what's cool about it is it comes with basically a factory bezel replacement. So it should all snap in and look OEM, which is kind of cool. The screen is actually built in to the bezel, which you can kind of tell. When it comes to speakers, a company called Kicker makes these upgraded plug-and-play speakers. We have both the door speakers as well as the tweeters in the dash. Like I said, I'm not much of an audio nerd, but I do know that I don't want to do a bunch of wiring, which is kind of nice with this setup because it should be all plug-and-play. I'm not going to be adding an amplifier or anything like that, but I think that this setup will be a substantial upgrade over the factory system. So let's get into it. The iDoing unit is actually made to work with almost every single one of the Subaru makes out there. So it works with the WRX, the STI, the Forester, the Outback. So you get a bunch of cables, which honestly, half of these we probably won't even be using. I know that this piece we won't even be using. We have stuff for a SIM card, which I'm not going to be using just because I don't really want to pay for another SIM card. We have the GPS, which I will be using. We also have the microphone, which I will definitely be using. And then you have all of your USB cables for your CarPlay and Android Auto, even though this does come with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. And then all of your various plugs and adapters that go to the factory harness. So I want to start with the head unit because I think this is going to take the longest. So we got to start by removing these top vents. I always feel like I'm breaking something when I do this. Ah, bro, I don't like doing this. I don't like pulling on this that hard. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. There's two 10mm bolts up top, and then there's one on either side that we're probably gonna have to remove the glove box and some panels over here, and then this whole thing should just pull right out. I just used an impact because when I was wailing on it with the wrench, I felt like I was gonna snap these two little tabs off back here, and so using an impact uses a little bit less like leverage to bend them. So you don't really need an impact, but I just did it because I didn't want to break anything. So like I said, there is another screw down there behind the glove box, and there's one more screw up underneath the steering wheel. I'm not gonna film it because I'm not gonna be able to get the camera back there. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the factory unit out. Just like that, it does pop out. So as you can tell, we got some pretty big differences between the two units. This one is the factory unit. We will have to move over this telematics or telemetry unit. It's on a lot of the newer, I think the 2018 and up STIs, but it basically controls the front speakers and the Starlink and all that stuff. So we will have to swap this over to the new unit. Everything will be plug and play. I'm gonna have to do some work with all these wires and make sure I'm using the correct wires because like I said earlier, we have a lot of wires that we won't be using just because this is a kit that works with a lot of different models. Okay, so I've got pretty much everything routed. I got everything transferred over to the new head unit, including the telemetrics or telemetry box, whatever that's called. We have our antenna, backup camera, USB cord, this is for GPS, and then our microphone. So now comes the challenge of getting everything plugged back in without scratching anything or breaking stuff. There's our antenna, our GPS. This is our microphone. Done. Okay, one thing that I want to do before I fully put this back into place is I want to key on the car and make sure that everything works. So, look at that. Okay, let's make sure the hazards work. They work. Let's make sure this works. Works. Let's make sure AC works. Yeah. Next biggest thing. Reverse camera. There we go. Nice. Check that out, it's all in, all done, ready to go. That screen is so much bigger than the one that comes from the factory. I also like how this is the flat black as opposed to the like piano gloss black that comes from the factory. Now the last step we have to do is probably the easiest part of this whole thing is getting these speakers in. We have speakers in all four of the doors as well as the tweeters in the dash. It should be fairly straightforward. All I gotta do is pull the door cards off, and then there's 3 screws holding each of these speakers in. And then after that, we get all the door cards back on and fire the system up. Door cards are pretty easy. There's a Phillips screw here and here under these little plastic covers. Okay. Dude, these speakers are so weak sauce. Just so you guys can get a better idea of how this works, door card just pops right off, and then you have your 3 screws and your plug holding the speaker in. This is the new speaker. It looks so much better compared to the old factory one. This literally feels like plastic. This literally feels like a plastic piece that I can like crush in my hand. There's no like substance to it at all. So hopefully these speakers sound a lot better. It amazes me how small, well, not necessarily how small, but how weak they are. You'd expect in a car that when it came out was about 40 grand to have nicer speakers, but I guess not. And these are just like so light. Nothing to them. The only thing I don't know is none of these speakers are labeled as right or left. So I really hope I don't have to pull these off, swap them, but there's no label anywhere that says right or left. So much easier than the head unit. Doing both doors literally took me about 15 minutes, max. One of the things I found when doing the door cards is you want to start from the bottom and pull out like this. And then when you get to the top, the door card is actually hanging on the frame of the door. So you want to make sure you're going up as opposed to out because you don't want to break off the lip in here. That is what the door card is hanging on. Other than that, it's so simple. I just did the other side, went ahead and got it done. Literally took like, again, 15 minutes to get the whole thing done. So now the final step is to install these tweeters. Here are the tweeters. They have a little kicker logo in there. Not like you're gonna see it, but it's kind of cool. These should be even easier as all you have to do is pry up that vent back there and the tweeter sits under it and you get a couple of Phillips head screwdrivers and pull it out. So like I said, it just pries up and pulls out like this. And then I don't even know if I could get the camera back there, but the tweeter is held in by 2 Phillips head screws and then a plug. Just so you get a better look, here is the old tweeter right here. And then here is the new tweeter. And then the new tweeter just goes back in there like that. It is the exact same thing on the other side. And if I didn't show this earlier, this is where I ran the little GPS module for the iDoing head unit. Sticky taped it up here. And, you know, it has to have some clear line of sight to the sky. And then I ran the cord behind the little plastic piece down here and then ran it through the dash down under the glove box and over to the head unit. And now for the best part. No way. So as I was going through fiddling with all the settings, I killed the battery. Damn it. Now, I'm pretty positive that most of you guys already know what an air oil separator does, but in case you don't know, is it basically takes all the pressure that comes from the crankcase and that aerosolized oil, it pulls it literally out of the air so that it doesn't get routed back into your intake. Oil in the air actually reduces the octane of the fuel. You have to bear with me right now. I don't know the exact science behind it, but it basically pulls the oil, aerosolized oil, out of the air so that your octane stays as high as possible, which decreases the likelihood of having knock events and stuff like that. So the aerosolized oil comes in through one of these ports, it actually cools it down, and then it routes it back down to the oil drain pan. From the factory, these cars do have a PCV system, but it's pretty weak, and especially when you start to increase the power, it definitely lacks a lot. This is what your factory PCV system is right here. This crossover pipe on top of the intercooler, that's gonna be getting removed. Now, this specific one is from a company called IAG. They are probably one of the most aftermarket part suppliers for Subarus. And the thing that I like about this kit the most is that it comes with all of the lines already pre-made. So if you're someone like me who doesn't necessarily care for making every single line, then this kit is perfect because all the lines are pre-made. Okay, so I've gone through and I've removed the entire, well, almost the entire factory PCV system. One thing I'd like to note on the intercooler is when I pulled it out, there was just barely a little bit of oil, which is really good. You don't want, there's gonna be a little bit of oil, especially on a stock car, but on this car, there was just like, I could barely swab it with my finger, which is really good, and then nothing on the inside of the coupler. If you're doing this on your car and you're going through and you're moving these white PCV connectors, they tell you to disconnect from the plug here and then pull the PCV connector out. You actually don't have to do that if you just want to disconnect it from that white PCV connector, because you end up reinstalling these anyways. So that's what I did. You have one here, one down here, and then one over on this side, and then one up front. And what you pull out is you basically pull out this piece. This connects to the manifold, the block, and then one of the PCV lines. And then this is that crossover breather that I was talking about earlier. Some of these clips are super like fiddly, and they take a little while and patience to get off, especially that one that connects on the block. So that's it. That's the only thing you remove from the factory system. Now it's time to actually start installing this. I know it looks like a lot here, but actually once you get on the car, it's not that complicated. So I'm not sure if you can see it down there, but the black Y pipe with the 2-inch hose fitting is all the way down there on the block. It's not really, it's harder for me to get to without the camera, so it's hard for me to show it with the camera, but there it is installed. I also went ahead and prepped the wiring harness back here. You have to do some adjustments of the placement of the wiring harness, which means you got to unclip everything. And there's a couple sections where you need to cut some electrical tape to kind of free it loose. But now that is done, it's time to move on to prepping the actual air oil separator to go in. We have some mounting hardware over here, and then we're gonna get all the fittings ready for the air oil separator. So we're gonna start off with our 2 coolant lines, just lubing up the lines or the fittings. These are kind of nice because everything is quick connect, so the fittings are already pre-installed, which is super helpful. Like that. And like that. Next we have the 26-inch drain hose. It clips on like that. And then now it's time to throw it in the car. Okay, so this right here is a super big pain. This is probably the hardest part of the install, at least so far, is routing all these lines, and especially this main wiring harness. For whatever reason, the instructions make it super easy that the wiring harness bolts into this location here. It was definitely super stiff to move into that position, and I'm not sure if there's something different about the 2021s that makes this change, but I got it in there. And then I routed the O2 sensor down there and got the can in there. Got both of our coolant lines routed underneath the main harness, up near the intercooler bracket above the turbo, and then our drain line over here, which I believe comes down here like that. So the next step is to get these coolant lines routed. They don't specify which one goes where, but I'm assuming the one on the right side goes down to the turbo, and the one on the left side goes up to the coolant reservoir. I'm not sure if it matters. I believe this is just basically the middle point between the upper reservoir and the coolant, or the turbo, but I'm sure a bunch of coolant is gonna go everywhere. So I'm going to put a towel down, actually a couple towels. Uh-oh, like I said, a bunch just came out. Well, not a lot I can do about that now, other than act fast. Oh my gosh. Okay, well that was an epic fail. I didn't think that much coolant was gonna drain out of that, but I guess not. So, pro tip, if you're gonna do this, don't forget to block off your coolant line before you do so. And I'm sure when I start this thing up, it's gonna like smoke and burn off all the coolant, but we got the lines in. Getting all the lines routed for the AOS is probably the most important part because each line has a specific spot and where it goes. That one that I route off, and the top port goes down to underneath the intake manifold. And then I started to run the lines to both of the breathers. You have one that goes to the passenger side, one that goes to the crank, and then one that goes off to the driver's side, which I'm doing right here. And like I said, these spring clamps are the most annoying things on the face of the earth. Make sure you get a set of spring clamp specific pliers for this. Last step is to route the 2 final PCV breather lines that go to the factory PCV connectors on the manifold. Okay, let me just start by saying that don't underestimate the amount of time it's going to take you to do this install. I'm sure there's people out there that can do this in like 30 minutes. I'm not one of them. We started this at like, I don't know, 3 or 4, and it's like 6 o'clock now and it's totally dark. On the Street Series version of the AOS, you have 3 more ports than you would normally. These 2 go to your breathers. There's one right there and one right here. You then have your breather to the crank, or the crankcase, which goes down in here. This one right here, all this setup down here, is the most challenging part of this install. And it looks like I forgot to clamp a hose clip down there. So make sure you take your time, because now I'm gonna have to get down in there. I would definitely also recommend getting a spring clamp specific pair of pliers, because holding these compressed is like holding a live grenade. These are actually horrendous. The amount of times that I would compress it and it would shoot off into another continent, happened a lot. So make sure you have the right tools for the job. I did not. You then have all of your valve cover ports. So this one goes to your passenger side valve cover. This one goes down to, also goes down to that crankcase breather port. And then you have your top one that comes across to the driver's side. The nice thing about this kit is there's minimal cutting. I only had to cut like 3 hoses. Your coolant lines are the ones down on the bottom of the AOS, and those come up to your coolant reservoir and your turbo. As we saw earlier, I spilled coolant literally everywhere. So when I start this thing up, it's probably gonna burn off excess coolant for a while. I wouldn't say that this job is necessarily hard, like challenging intellectually, but it's just everything is so finicky and like fiddly, and you're down in places it's hard to reach. It just takes forever, as you can tell. So make sure you have enough time on your hands. Probably the most challenging part to get this top mount back on. It's especially going to be hard considering that down near the turbo, we have a bunch of extra lines here. And so getting that coupler around this turbo is going to prove to be a big challenge. I'm gonna be totally honest here. This is like 100% the worst install I've ever done. I mean, it's now 10 o'clock and I just got the intercooler back in. It's like, it's not even that hard. Like you spend so much time fiddling with like the little things. Like I literally spent an hour trying to get the bottom snap ring clip to go in. Like it just wouldn't. I don't know, like I tried multiple different ways. I basically had to pull off all of the lines and redo it just so I could get that one clip in. Like it's ridiculous. And then getting the intercooler back in, I just spent like another 45 minutes trying to get the intercooler back in. And like these top mount intercoolers on these Subarus are so bad to get in because everything is so compact on this motor. But we got it all done and it looks pretty clean. I seriously fought with this for probably a good 30 minutes and like just like shaking it and forcing it, and everything's back in, it's all done. So the last thing to do is to refill up with coolant because we lost a bunch of coolant, and to bleed the system, I gotta plug the battery back in, but hopefully everything goes smoothly. It's probably gonna burn off a bunch of coolant that's like left on the block when it gets hot, but I'm not too worried about that. Looking pretty good. Oh, I'm dead. Holy smokes. I did not think that this is gonna take this long, but at least it's done now, and we can know that our EJ motor is just a little bit more reliable. Once we start to really kind of push some power, definitely gonna want an AOS on this thing. Here we go. Dude, that G80, so clean. One day, boys, one day, we will have it. Ooh, there's a lip. Bouncing off the walls sounds so good. Not sure what's going on with this thing. It's acting up. So, for whatever reason, the Subi is starting to act up. Might just be bad gas. This car has been totally fine, no problems till now. Well, I give you guys full permission to make all the Subaru jokes in the world you want now, because we gotta pull the motor on the STI. Now, if you remember in the last video, when we went out to San Clemente, I mentioned that I was having issues with my dam dropping. All of a sudden, it was weird. I didn't know how to fix it, and I tried the usual dam diagnostic, which was change the gas, check the spark plug, check the NOx sensor. If that doesn't work, check compression. And when I got home from California, I went ahead and I bought a compression tester. And lo and behold, typical number 4 decides to be low compression. So, why this happened, I don't know why. This is a 2021, barely 30,000 miles on it. And yeah, I am the second owner, but from what it looked like, the previous owner did take care of it. These things just happen sometimes with cars. This is the world of modifying Subarus, I guess, maybe, I don't know. So, nothing much to it, but we gotta start to pull the motor. So I went ahead and I picked up cherry picker, an engine stand, and I also have a bunch of Company 23 tools on the way so that we can go through and get this thing torn apart. It really is stock, minus the intake and the AOS. I've done all the maintenance required, oil change every 3,000 with the right oil, good oil, and you know what? This is just the sign to build it better and stronger, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. Now, fingers crossed, I'm pretty sure it's just it's something in the valve train, because when I did my compression test, put a little bit of oil inside cylinder 4 and the compression did not change, which means that it's most likely not ringland failure. But I won't know until I strip it down. So I'm thinking it's either a cracked valve spring or a burnt valve. I don't hear too many burnt valves in these cars, especially with such low miles. So I'm thinking it's probably either a cracked valve spring or something in the valve train. Once again, I won't know until I get this thing stripped down fully. Okay, so we've gotten the motor stripped down just a little bit. We got the intercooler out, the radiator, the air intake, and the battery, of course. Still probably gonna get the AOS out. We gotta do the accessories, so power steering, alternator, and AC. AC is just gonna pull over to the side here, and then power steering is gonna pull over to the side there. I don't wanna disconnect either of them because I don't want to leak power steering fluid or have to recharge the AC. While I was pulling out the intercooler, I did notice that there's a little bit of blow by in there. It doesn't seem like there's anything making it past the intercooler into the throttle body. I'm probably gonna check the turbo when I pull it out. Maybe the turbo's blown, I don't know. But other than that, it looks to be pretty normal, other than the, of course, compression. I'm not seeing super glittery oil. I just drained the oil, so I'm letting it drain out, but it doesn't look super glittery or glittery at all. And then the coolant doesn't look like oil and coolant are mixing, so I don't think it's a head gasket. I won't totally know until, once again, I strip it down. I'm gonna replace the coolant anyways and replace the oil, even though I just put in this oil probably, I don't know, maybe 200 miles ago. Kind of a waste of oil, but I don't want to risk anything. I don't want to run oil that's been in the motor already again, even though I probably could. So I got power steering out of the way. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do the intake manifold next because I cannot get to the bolts, at least with the current tools that I have, under the AC compressor, which is not a huge deal. I've seen a lot of people do it that way too, so it doesn't really matter. I kind of compartmentalize this in my mind and remove as little as possible off the engine while it's in the bay. To remove the intake manifold, we have all of the plugs that go to our TGVs. There's a bunch of sensors, are the few sensors up here and some sensors over there. Then we have on either side, we have 4 bolts that go to the TGVs. I'm gonna pull the TGVs off with the manifold and not separate them. And then we have to pull our AOS out and disconnect our fuel lines. The manifold was the thing that I struggled with most on the 2005 STI, if you guys remember that. So this is probably gonna be another the same situation again. Gotta take our time with it. Okay, so arguably one of the hardest parts is done. I decided it's just gonna be easier to do it this way. There's so much going on, especially on a bone stock 2021. The V8 chassis have a lot more sensors compared to the GDs, which is what I'm used to. Now I'm going to start on getting our PCV system, the secondary air pump, and the coolant crossover. Coolant crossover, and then this is our PCV setup, but it also has crossover, or part of the coolant crossover within it. Okay, I'm trying my best to take everything apart in as big of chunks as possible. I just think it's gonna make reassembly so much easier, because right now, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this thing back together. I'd like to have a word with whoever designed these clamps for the breather hoses, because I also want to take a second to kind of go over everything, because I know for a lot of people who have never done this before, this is probably very confusing. So it's honestly confusing for me too. But in reality, it's pretty simple. This is your intake manifold. Basically chops up to your TGVs, your fuel rails, and your fuel lines, all of which are kind of underneath the manifold. We might be changing those out soon, and then I can kind of explain where that goes. You also have your evap and your boost control solenoid. Your boost control solenoid is just a couple of vacuum lines, one that goes to the manifold, and then this one goes to the wastegate and your turbo. You have your turbo inlet, of course. This is your coolant crossover and your kind of PCV system, along with a couple of coolant lines. This is your coolant crossover, this big aluminum piece right here, that goes to the heater core. Then you have another crossover. This actually goes up to our expansion tank, which is over there. We pulled that off almost the very first thing. You also have your PCV system. On either side, you're gonna have two breathers, at least on the STI model. This one will go up to the AOS over there. Same with this one. So you have two single hoses on either side, and then one big breather that goes across the entire thing, that goes down to the block. And then you have another breather that goes here. This is where your AOS drains as well. This big thing that is total pain to get out, this is your secondary air injection. It's only on the 2007 the 2006 and up chassis. The 2007 kind of sits back near the strut tower, and then everything past that, it sits right here with your secondary air pump, which is over there. It's kind of crazy when you go aftermarket on a lot of these parts. It really does simplify things down a little bit. I think I might do the competition conversion kit for the AOS, just to have less lines in the engine bay. And then when I go to upgrade the fuel lines and fuel rails, that is going to significantly make things less complicated in my mind. I don't know. It's just kind of the way I look at things and view them. But on a factory car, I don't know how they do it from the factory. I don't know if they pull everything out at once and do it on a stand. I'm sure there's some special technique to doing these motor pulls that just allows the factory to crank these out. But not me, because I don't know what I'm doing. So we got the downpipe out. Now we just have a couple things left. We have to loosen the motor mounts on the bottom, and then we have to pull the starter, and as well as it's like a pin that goes through the clutch fork. And then after that, there's a couple of grounding straps on the bottom. We'll jack up the transmission, and then we will attempt to get this thing out. Oh, and the pitch mount too. Oh. Okay, yeah, there is a small tab on the back. Anyways, there's your starter. Or just put cardboard over there. Okay, stupid piece of shit. So, here we have it. Finally got it out. It took a lot of persuasion. As you guys saw, I was getting on it pretty hard with the hammer and the chisel. Unfortunately, this dowel pin is what was giving us problems. It's pretty rusted. I'm probably gonna have to remove it and get a new one. The other one is stuck in the block, but for whatever reason, I don't know why it was so rusted and corroded, but it was. And so it was holding up from pulling the transmission from the engine. Keep in mind, this is my very first time ever pulling a motor on a car, so I'm kind of learning as I'm going. And it's a lot of trial and error for me and a lot of YouTube University, but I think we did all right for our first time. I'm still waiting on a bunch of tools from Company 23 to get this motor torn down. There's some special tools you need for the AVCS cam gears and another tool to compress the springs. So those will be here sometime, hopefully soon. But I think tomorrow, not tonight, because I just don't have it in me tonight. But tomorrow, I'm going to go through and get this mounted on the stand and get the clutch off and start tearing off everything from the block and just stripping it down to the block. But it's gonna have to wait for tomorrow because I'm on like hour 8 of this thing and we just now got the motor out. There's part of me that kind of maybe doesn't hope for it, but is okay if the fact that this bottom end is gone, because then it's a chance to, you know, have a super sick motor. But there's also part of me that knows like that is gonna be insanely expensive. So I'm really hoping, I think I'm okay with either or. I think in the long run, I would prefer if this bottom end is still good and we could just rebuild the heads and maybe make them a little bit stronger and then throw it back in, because the Type RA short blocks supposedly are still pretty strong from the factory. They're not crazy. They're not going to take 1,000 horsepower, but they'll take enough horsepower for what I'm looking to push. So we'll see. I guess we won't know until I finally get it all stripped down. So before I start stripping off all these timing components, I need to make sure that the engine is in time before I start doing so, which I think it already is. But if it wasn't, you'd be looking for a few things. There is a notch on the top of the pump here. Then you have notches on all of your cam gears. So you have one on the top that lines up with this piece right here. You have two in the middle, and then you have one on the side, and then same for the other side. One up top, two in the middle, and one on the side. Okay, so in an attempt to not make an absolute mess everywhere, I failed, clearly. Technically, you're supposed to remove the front timing cover in order to get the dipstick out, in order to get the oil pan off easier. I decided not to do it that way because I want to get the oil pan off before I stripped everything down. Just because if we're going to see massive engine failure, we're going to see it down here in the short block as soon as I pull the oil pickup tube and this baffle off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we can look inside and see if we see anything. Actually, there's not any metal shavings in there at all. It looks completely fine. So that is a good sign, but I still wanna double check. I really don't think it's the bottom end. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this bottom end is still salvageable. I think it's definitely got to be something in the head. Hopefully it's the head gasket or a valve or something like that. Gotta just pull the head off because both the oil pan and inside the actual case are totally fine. From what I can tell, I mean, the oil pan is spotless. There's not a single fleck of metal in the oil pan, which is good, which means that we can most assuredly reuse this short block. Now, these AVCS cam bolts are notorious for stripping out, so we're going to be careful with them. Now there's a trick that Smedia uses, and that is to put a little bit of valve grinding compound in there. Oh, there we go. All right, one down. Okay, so I have all of my timing components organized here. So it's finally time to start to pull the head bolts out. Over here, I have a 14 millimeter 1/2 inch star socket on a 1/2 inch breaker bar. I hope this is enough. These are easier than the cam bolts, I'll tell you that. Way easier than the cam bolts. Doesn't look like the head gasket failed. Guys, I'm genuinely stumped. I have no idea. So I went through, I pulled out the valves, pulled off the cams, checked in the valves, checked the valves themselves and the springs, checked inside the cylinder and the head gasket, and there's nothing that's like glaringly obvious. There's no major scoring on the cylinder. There's no, like, the head gasket looks fine. It's not like obvious that it's a head gasket failure. Cam journals look fine. The cams themselves look fine. The lobes look fine. The valves, none of the valves are burnt. They're dirty as hell, but none of the valve springs are cracked. The retainers look fine. None of the valves look bent. I mean, maybe there's like such a small bend in one of them that I can't even see it with my own eyes, but it's like for such low compression in one of the cylinders. And I ran the test multiple times just to double check before I ripped this whole thing out. I ran the test multiple times and consistently it was 60. So I don't think it's the tester. I know I bought the tester from Harbor Freight, but a PSI gauge is a PSI gauge. I will say though, shout out this company 23 tool. It genuinely makes this so easy. It makes it like dumb simple. Also, their cam wrenches over there make this process dumb simple. So at least I haven't been having problems disassembling things, but I would almost rather like have an issue. Now, I'm not even gonna say that. I'm not even gonna put that into the world. But I would almost rather have like a glaringly obvious, like, oh, there's scoring on the cylinder wall, ringline failure. Oh, there's metal in the oil pan, something broke. Or, oh my gosh, the valve is bent at a 90-degree angle, which would not happen, but you get my point. This like mystery game of like, I have no idea what's happening with this car. It's irritating. It's very frustrating. And what I also don't want to do is I also don't want to put everything back together, put this motor back in the car, and have the same exact problem. Man, this is annoying. The only thing that I could possibly think of is it looks like the exhaust valve seats. There's not a clean seat. Like, they're dirty. There's carbon buildup. That's the only thing I can think of right now. But would that little buildup cause compression in cylinder 4 to drop to half? I don't know. I just don't know. I need to get a second opinion. Okay, so last night I took the chance to get these cylinder heads packaged back up. I figured there's only one more option left, and that was to pull the piston. So took it down to my tuner, and we pulled the piston together, and well, I think we found our issue. I really don't think it's the bottom end. Not supposed to be like this. So it basically means that this bottom end is toast. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to rebuild this specific bottom end. If I'm gonna build it, I'm gonna build it in the way I want to, but all I know right now is that it's gonna be expensive. So at least we now know the problem. It was ringland failure, which is, it's still kind of surprising to me, and maybe this is how it happens sometimes, but when I pulled the oil pan, there was nothing in the oil pan. So that's why I kind of figured that the likelihood of it being something bottom end was a little bit lower. Maybe I'm just used to seeing bearing failure where you see a ton of metal shavings in the oil pan and basically the entire oil system is compromised. But this is probably the best case scenario for a bottom end failure, and it only means that we go stronger from here. I'm gonna have to kind of think about how I want to go about this. I'm kind of thinking about building it in stages, so building the block and then doing a turbo kit later, something that I know is going to be bulletproof for a long time, and just doing a simple stock turbo and flex fuel build. I don't know, it depends on how much it's going to cost. And this is kind of the reality of building Subarus, is bang for your buck is non-existent. These cars are expensive to make power on. This isn't like a B58 where you just throw a downpipe and an E50 tune on and you make, you know, 400 or 500. So I'm gonna have to think about how I wanna do this. I really wanna do this right. I wanna build something that is A, I have faith that it's not gonna explode again, and B, something that is fun to drive. I don't wanna just rebuild it back to stock, because what's the point? I did all this work, all this effort to tear down this motor, might as well build it the way you wanna build it. But at the same time, pouring, you know, 20, 30 grand into a car doesn't make a whole lot of sense, at least for me right now. Well, what do you guys think? Where should we go with this build? I'm definitely gonna have to send the heads off to get machined out. We also measured the valve tolerance and the valve lash, and it was totally out of whack, so the valve seats need to be done. Let me just look at this. Totally smashed. I pulled it from the cylinder, or the case half, and it just like crumpled in my hand. It is crazy to me because this is a Type RA block, and so I thought that the Type RA blocks were a little bit stronger than the 2015 to 2017 blocks. I don't know what happened. It's still crazy to me that this was a 30K mile motor that was basically stock. The only thing it had was an intake and an AOS and ringline failure. I don't know, who knows? I guess at this point it doesn't really matter. The damage has been done and it's time to build and make it stronger from here.
We're right here. We've got everything we need to turn this car into the car that I've always wanted it to be. We've got everything from fueling mods to blow off valves, brand new head studs, new fuel pump, new clutch, injectors, all the reliability mods for the Subaru, and of course, actually fixing the problem we had with this brand new V3 short block from out front. When I was thinking about how I was gonna go about rebuilding this car, I thought about it in two ways. I could spend as little as possible, just get the car back up and running and basically return it to what it was before, or I could take the opportunity to build the car I've always wanted to build. And that's exactly what I did. But as I'm sure a lot of you Subaru guys know, with these cars, you gotta pay to play. So as of right now, we are about $20,000 deep in parts for this car already, and I'm sure there's gonna be more that we need, but I think at the end it's gonna be worth it. Now, we're not gonna be jumping into building the long block in today's video, but I wanted to go through and kind of show you guys everything that I have for this car because it's pretty cool. So like I said, starting off with the short block, this is out front V3 built short block with the closed deck. Now, I'll be straight up front with you guys. My power goals for this car is around that 500 mark on ethanol. So that's why I kind of went with a sturdier block. We're still gonna be running stock cams and stock valves, although I did upgrade to GSC valve springs and retainers. So this motor is definitely gonna be able to handle everything we throw at it. Instead of just showing you guys all these parts and boxes, I'm gonna get them out on the table for you. Okay, so right here is pretty much everything for our fuel system. Starting off from the back of the car, we have the radium hanger. This is a super sweet piece. It's just a better housing over the stock housing. It's made of all CNC aluminum, and it has the ability to hold 2 pumps, which we're only gonna be running 1 pump in this build, but it's still nice to have that. It also allows us to hardwire the fuel pump, which is what we are going to be doing. That way we can have a constant power source from the battery. Speaking of fuel pumps, this is our fuel pump. This is a Deechworks 420 liter per hour. This will be more than enough for ethanol. We are still gonna be running the stock hard lines under body, but we are going to be running the radium fuel filter. I'm gonna have to make it kind of a custom setup for this. It mounts right next to the steering rack almost in the car, but this will be nice. It's definitely important to have a fuel filter just to keep your fuel system clean. Then for our lines in bay, I bought the radium kit, but this is the rubber line that they give you. And I kind of want to switch it out for some custom nylon hose, which I'll probably do. I don't need it, but I like the way it looks better in this engine bay. And I want this to be kind of everything I want. Next up, we have the radium fuel rails, or basically radium everything on this build. Radium fuel rails, these are nice. We're gonna be running this setup in series just because I don't know that I need to run it in parallel for the 500 horsepower mark. And when I do the parallel, the experience I had with the white STI, if you guys remember that, is that without the dampers, you have the regulator is super loud. So it's a little bit more simpler with the series system. If I want to upgrade to a rotated kit in the future, then I'll probably move to a parallel system. But for right now, running it in series is going to be just fine. For injectors, we are running the AUS 1450cc injectors. This will be more than enough for ethanol. And other than that, we just have a series of lines and fittings over here. Everything that Radium creates is awesome. I'm sure if you guys have been in the motorsport world, you know who Radium is. So I don't know that I need to say more. Now for some reliability, we have the Killer Bee oil pan pickup and baffle. If you guys know, the stock oil pan on these cars is pretty weak sauce, and oil does slosh around and pulls away from the pickup. So the whole point of this pan and the baffle and pickup is to A, add another quart of oil to the system, and B, to keep the oil near the pickup. So it has a series of baffles. There's also a baffle tray over here in this box that I'm not gonna take out yet, but it basically keeps all the oil down in the bottom and near the pickup so you never starve out of oil. The other oiling component we have is an 11 millimeter shimmed oil pump. I just went ahead and got a new oil pump just to make sure that the oil system on this car is robust and never gonna fail. I'll probably also do an oil pressure sensor a little bit later on. I just haven't bought it yet, but it's definitely something on the list. But one thing that's cool is you have multiple ports on the bottom of this. So you have your drain, and then you also have another 1/2 inch NPT for a sensor if you wanted to. I'm pretty sure that's more for oil temp, which I don't think I'm gonna be adding quite yet unless I plan to track the car, which I'm not looking to do so right now, but if I wanted to in the future, I could. The other thing we have, like I mentioned, is the fluid damper. This is just a nice reliability mod, and it helps with the longevity of the engine. Now on to probably everybody's favorite part of this build, the turbo. You know we had to upgrade the turbo to hit that 500 horsepower goal. So here it is. I've decided to go with the Blausch 3.0 G2R turbo. This is a ball bearing turbo. And to pair with that, we are also going to be running the Tile external wastegate. So we have the welded internal wastegate option right here. This is a pretty wicked bad turbo. From everything that I've heard about this turbo is that it spools very similarly to stock. So, which is kind of nice. I don't want a super big laggy turbo. So I think this spools around the 45 to 47 RPM range, which is super nice. So it's gonna spool early and it's gonna spool quick and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And not to mention that external wastegate flutter, which compared with this other mod, our Killer Bee equal length headers is gonna sound pretty incredible. Now I know I'm getting rid of the Subi Rumble, but in my mind, the equal length with the external wastegate sounds just as good. It's different, but it sounds just as good. These are probably some of the best headers you can get for the STI on the market. It's a 4-into-1, and then it comes up to our up pipe, up to our turbo. This is still a stock location turbo. I didn't want to go rotated on this setup quite yet. Going rotated for the 500 horsepower mark is not necessarily needed in my mind. You definitely can get there, obviously on a rotated kit, but I kind of wanted to keep it stock location for now. But everything Killer Bee makes is best of the best when it comes to Subarus. That's kind of what they specialize in. These are the same headers that I ran on the white STI, if you guys remember that, and they sound pretty good. Now we got all this power, but we gotta have a way to put down the power. So right here, we have an ACT Mod Twin clutch. This is more than enough clutch for the power levels that we're gonna be handling, but I wanna be able to launch this car. I wanna be able to flat foot shift this car, and this clutch is gonna be the one to do it. I like to build my cars a little bit overkill, just so I have the peace of mind that everything's gonna work. I don't have this looming, part of the car is gonna fail, so I went all out, but buy once, cry once, am I right? I've actually driven this clutch before in a rotated kit STI, and it actually feels pretty good. It's not too heavy. It's definitely dailyable clutch. It's gonna take some getting used to. It's definitely different than the stock clutch, but overall, it's a super nice clutch, and I'm definitely excited to run it in this car. Now, for the last couple of things regarding the turbo and all the boosts that we're gonna be making, we have a Perrin 3-inch inlet. I was gonna go with the hard inlet, but it's such a pain to install, so I went ahead with the Perrin. It's a lot more forgiving, but this is the 3-inch inlet version to fit the big 3-inch turbo. We also have for our blow-off valve, we're gonna be switching to speed density. So I went ahead and I picked up the HKS super sequential valve. I know there's a lot of different blow-off valves out there, but I kind of wanted to have a little bit of that JDM sound and vibe to this car. And so I think that this will help with that. If you've heard this blow-off valve, it sounds super good. And if you haven't heard it, I recommend going and looking up some videos of the way it sounds. It's very distinguished, it's very recognizable, and it's gonna sound sick on this car. A couple other mods, we have two. We have the Cobb boost control solenoid. This is a must. We gotta have this for tuning. And then we also have for flex fuel, which is I forgot to mention when we covered our fuel system, we're gonna be running the Innovate flex fuel sensor and gauge. I'm gonna have to do some custom wiring for this, but I think it will be manageable. I was recommended this by my tuner, and for what I've seen, all the flex fuel sensors are GM sensors. So at the end of the day, the flex fuel sensor is a flex fuel sensor, but hopefully this setup will work for what we're trying to do. But I definitely wanted to make sure that I went flex fuel on this car, worth all the effort to do it, and it's what will help us get to that 500 horsepower mark. Now, the last pretty big mod that we have for this car is going to be this ETS intercooler. This is the 3-inch core, which will be more than enough. And then we also went with the powder coat black finish. I'm going to have to custom fab the cold side of this intercooler setup because if you guys remember, I have the Cobb Redline intake. It's a super sweet, solid carbon fiber piece intake. And I definitely want to continue to use that. It's like one of my favorite parts about the engine bay of this car. But in order to do that, we're gonna have to custom fab this piping and weld it back together so that we can fit around that Cobb intake, but it's gonna be super sweet. I went with the black to go ahead and match. I just think it matches better with the engine bay. It's a little bit cleaner, and also our AOS is powder coated black, so it'll kind of contrast with the powder coated red intake manifold. We're still gonna be running the stock intake manifold on this car, but I think the black with the red is gonna be pretty sweet looking. But honestly, that's about it. There's some small things that I ordered too, but I'll kind of show you that as I go along. We have a new timing belt. We have some new hardware and stuff like that. Just kind of some general freshen up things. I figured do some things while the motor's out of the car. So we got new motor mounts, just stuff like that, like while you're there, mods. But other than that, that is everything we have for this build. Like I said, we're not gonna start on the build in today's video, but I wanted to take you guys through and show you everything that's going into the build. And I think this is gonna be a pretty rad setup. I think it's gonna be a super fun setup for the street and way better than just returning it back to stock. Another one of the things that I did while this car has kind of been sitting, and I did it off camera, but I went through and I added Cartboy short shifter, as well as the white line bushings underneath for the cross member. So this is a way better shifting setup than the stock shifter. I also added the Group N transmission mount to pair with the Group N motor mounts that we're gonna be doing.
Got it. I went ahead and got all of our PCV and our coolant crossovers done, as well as some other things. I also went through and I got the engine timed. We have our Gates Performance timing belt on this one with just the standard OEM pulleys and tensioner. The OEM system only had 30,000 miles on it, so you're supposed to replace these at 60. I could have gone and replaced it, but I decided to keep them since they were in good condition. I've already gone through and spun the engine over and everything checks out. If you're doing timing on your Subaru, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's actually pretty simple, but can screw it up if you do it the wrong way. I also went ahead and got our Killer Bee oil pan on, along with the Fumoto quick drain. And then I also upgraded our motor mounts to the Group N motor mounts. This being a street car, I didn't want anything too harsh, but I definitely wanted to upgrade over the stock mounts. I also have the transmission mount on the Group N transmission mount in the car already. One of the things I did have to do on the timing cover in order to fit our new fluid damper is on the factory timing cover, there is a large lip that goes around here that protrudes out probably 1/2 inch. You do have to trim that back. I basically trimmed it back as far as I could without cutting into the timing cover. But now we can take our fluid damper without dropping it. We can get it on there like that. So the next step to do on this car is to get the timing cover on and start to get both manifolds, the exhaust and intake manifold, as well as the up pipe and the turbo on. From there, we get the clutch on and we can throw this thing into the car. Now what's cool is we can start to finally break into some of our fueling components. So for injectors, we are running AUS 1450cc injectors. This will be more than enough for our power goals on ethanol. These kind of look like 1050s though, but they are definitely 1450s, I checked. We also are running the radium rails. They're pretty much the best of the best. So that's what we're gonna be running on this setup. So I'm gonna kind of go through, get it all put together, get it on the motor, and then I'll explain how it's going to be set up for you guys. I ran the radium setup in my last STI if you guys missed that, and I was super happy with the quality and the craftsmanship on radium products. They obviously are some of the best in the game. Okay, so this is pretty much how we're going to be set up with our TGVs and our fuel rails. So on this side, we have our regulator and then our pressure gauge. I'm gonna have to clock this pressure gauge because as you can see, it hits the oil fill, but that's okay. I tried to run it over here, actually connected to the regulator, but it hits our PCV hose. So fitment is a little bit tight over here, but it's kind of nice because then I only have to run the vacuum reference like 3 inches up into the boost control or the blow off valve reference. So it'll keep for some nice line routing. Over here, this is pretty basic. It just has 2 swivel fittings on either side. I don't have these mounted down yet, but it's pretty sweet. This regulator is super compact and nice. A little bit different than the regulator we ran on the 2005 STI, but this is a little bit of a different setup with the series setup. But I think all the lines and the routing is gonna happen in a later video. So we still have a lot to do when it comes to fuel, but at least for right now, we have our rails and our injectors mounted. Next step is going to be getting our headers onto the engine. And if you saw in our last video or the video before that, I went with the Killer Bee Holy header. This is the equal length header, so we won't have that Subi rumble. But in my mind, the equal length with the external wastegate sounds just as good as the unequal length. Plus, with the equal length, we'll be getting all the added performance benefits of an equal length. But check out these headers. As usual, everything Killer Bee is phenomenal. And this is probably one of my favorite parts about this motor build. I'm gonna leave these loose for now because I know that I'm going to have to adjust them when we do our up pipe and our turbo. So they're just gonna stay loose so that we have some wiggle room. But these look so nice, especially with the Killer Bee oil pan. It's just a super sweet setup. Too bad it's under the car, no one's gonna see it, but I'll know it's there. Positioning this big of a turbo with a 3-inch inlet under the manifold is going to be extremely hard. So I hope I don't have to get spacers. I don't think I will, but that's why I'm doing this all outside of the car, because doing it inside of the car is gonna be a pain in the ass. So let's get this turbo on. If you missed the first video, this is the turbo that we're gonna be running. This is the Blausch 3.0 G2R. It spools pretty fast and it'll get us to that 500 horsepower mark. We're not going rotated on this setup, even though our block will handle it. I saw some comments on the short that I posted, people saying that a closed deck for 500 horsepower is crazy. Obviously, this motor will handle more than 500 horsepower, but 500 horsepower is our goal for this build. If you guys know anything about stock location turbos on Subarus, is they are a pain, especially once you go to that 3-inch inlet. It's basically impossible to do with the manifold on, so we did it without the manifold on. Okay, so we got the turbo and the up pipe on. It's actually horrendous because of the size of this turbo. You can tell that we are totally pinching here, but that's just how it is for this setup. I could get phenolic spacers, but I think this will work and we'll be able to get the manifold on. I'm hoping that I have enough play over on this side to get the manifold to line up, but look at that. We're starting to finally get somewhere with this motor and one step closer into getting into the car. Okay, so we got the motor fully dressed out. It took a long time just because there's a lot with the manifold and getting everything to fit with this huge inlet and this big old turbo, but everything is good to go. Now it's time to get it on a hoist and get the clutch on so we can actually get it into the car. Okay, so we got the clutch and flywheel assembly onto the motor. Just want to say shout out to this Company 23 flywheel locker tool. It definitely is a must for doing these clutches, especially when you have it on the crane. The motor moves around a bunch, especially when you're torquing it down. I'm sure you guys could see it. Definitely pick one up if you're doing a clutch job on your car. I also got our throwout bearing and our clutch fork back into place. So we should be ready to go to get the motor back in the car. Okay, I'm not gonna lie with you guys, I'm really struggling with this one. I had to pull the motor back out because I just simply could not get it to line up. I would get the bottom of these lined up, but I couldn't get it to sit fully onto the motor. I think part of the problem is because I think I need a longer arm on my hoist, and I was making contact with the front bumper, so I decided to pull the front bumper off. I also moved the slave cylinder, or the clutch cylinder, out of the way so that I could raise the transmission up a little bit more. So I'm gonna give this one more go. Hopefully I can get it this time. The second go around on this, was not good. I was just getting tired and frustrated, and I was stressed about breaking something. Well guys, I'm in quite the predicament here. I can't get this motor in. As you can tell, it's a new day. I quit after the second go around yesterday and attempted to come back today and do it. And I gave it one more shot and I still couldn't do it. As you can tell, it's on the ground just because I want to take some load off of the crane because I don't know how long it's going to be sitting here for. I really hope I didn't damage anything in the process. I don't know. I'm kind of stumped with this one, unfortunately. It's really frustrating. Everything up until this point has been going fantastic. Got the motor out with not a whole lot of issues. We got the motor built with not a whole lot of issues, but I just can't get this thing in. It's not jacked up right now, but it was jacked up before. I could get it to the point where I could clear the studs on the subframe, get the studs on the motor lined up with the holes, and I could get it connected up top here. But no matter how much I played with the angles, I could not get the two to go like this. The top up here is connected, but the bottom, basically half, will not sit into place. I've tried multiple different angles of jacking the transmission up. I've tried multiple different angles with the engine. I removed the bumper so I could get the lift closer. I'm missing something. I have no idea what it is. But yeah, it's really frustrating. And I really don't want to have to take this all apart and just strip it down to the bare long block and then put it in. And I shouldn't have to because these motors should go in with everything on it. That's how they are removed from the factory. In the factory service manual, you pull it out with everything on it. I think I'm gonna call it quits for now because I feel like if I push any further, I'm actually gonna break something. I'm really hoping I didn't break something. It got caught one time and I don't know if it was the clutch. I don't think it was because I'm not seeing any like massive, like there's a couple of little scratches here, but I'm not seeing any massive damage. I feel like if it got caught in the clutch, it would have ripped this monolock collar out. The middle disc has a little bit of back and forth play. I don't know if that's normal. I didn't notice it before, but I also didn't try to move it. It doesn't play, it doesn't spin. If you look at the way an ACT Mod Twin is built, you have your spline section that is separate from your actual discs because they're sandwiched in between two plates. I wish I could show you, but the clutch is on and I Loctite everything because I didn't think I was gonna have to take it off and I didn't want the bolts backing out and I don't wanna have to take it off because I put Loctite on the bolts. But it does, that center disc does slide back and forth. I don't know if that's normal or not. I really need to figure out a solution quick. I think I'm gonna have to call in some backup because I don't want to leave this motor sitting here like this on the hoist for an extended period of time. But luckily, I didn't have to. Is that it, guys? They're just doing it wrong this whole time? Oh my gosh, finally. That should be it. Yes, sir. Oh, dude. Let's go. Okay, so one thing we want to do before we get everything kind of situated officially, is want to take this. This is your clutch fork, and you want to push it in until it clicks. Like that. At least I'm pretty sure that's it. Guys, you have no idea how much of a relief this actually is to see a motor in this car. I was stressing out a lot, I'm not gonna lie. When the second go around, I couldn't get it, and then I kind of dropped the motor, I was really stressing. So, I'm happy that I got it in this time. Sometimes, man, you just gotta give it one more shot, even if you don't know you can do it. It is kind of crazy. This clutch literally feels like OEM. I drove a twin disc a while back in a V8 chassis STI and it felt nothing like this. It was actually pretty like heavy and very responsive. Like the catch point came on like that. So I don't know if that car had a different disc setup, but this clutch literally feels like a stock clutch. Like I was a little concerned when it came in here and pressed the pedal because it should be a lot more stout than that, but it's not. And I talked to my tuner and he said that that's how it's supposed to be, and that's actually why he likes that clutch, but it feels good. Car goes into gear just fine. So we should be all good there. So honestly, the majority of the work is done on this setup. All that's really left is the fuel system and the intercooler and blow-off valve. Over the past few weeks, I've been working hard trying to get everything buttoned up and ready to go for first start. This included our downpipe, our fuel hanger, as well as our fuel pumps and the fueling system. This was pretty cool. The Radium kit is super nice and everything just works together, and the instructions are super clean and clear. So if you need anything fueling, I highly recommend Radium. After that, it was time to get all of our accessories on. This is our power steering and our AC, as well as some evap stuff and our boost control solenoid. I then moved into the external wastegate and the dump tube. This is super deep in there, you're not gonna be able to see it. And then I went to our radiator. Now I bought the CSF dual row radiator with the front mount. You definitely need to upgrade a radiator because the front mount does block a little bit of airflow to that radiator, so having a nicer radiator definitely helps. Now, that leaves us with just a couple of big things left, one of which being the intercooler. Okay, since we were retaining the Cobb intake box, the carbon fiber redline one, I did have to go through and get some custom fab done on our intercooler piping. So I took the chance to get them powder coated, and I chose, this is called brushed aluminum from Prismatic Powders, and I kind of wanted that raw metal look in the engine bay. I'm not a huge fan of wrinkle black and that much. It's just too much for me. We have the manifold that's wrinkle red, and then we have everything else is kind of black. So I thought I would spice it up a little bit and go with something a little bit brighter for the intercooler piping. And it turned out awesome. I'm super happy with the way this turned out. So I'm not gonna be using every single pipe in this kit because we do have some custom fab pieces, but I'm gonna go through and try to figure out where all this spaghetti goes. Check this out, guys. It's finally almost there. All of the mechanical work is done on this thing. I'm super happy with the way that the engine bay turned out. I was a little nervous about the silver piping. I thought it was gonna look kind of ricey, but I think it looks good. I think it looks better than the wrinkled black, especially because everything else in the engine bay is either black or carbon. So I think this looks awesome. So as you guys saw, I got the intercooler mounted up. We got all of our intake piping in. We got our HKS blow-off valve in and wired up, as well as we got our Cobb intake and our cold side inner piping, or hot side inner piping. I think it's super hard to make a Subaru engine bay look clean, especially when you have a lot of the factory equipment like the manifold and stuff like that. There's just so many hoses and lines and stuff like that, but I think this setup looks pretty good. It looks complete, and I think sometimes, especially with the front mount intercooler kit, the engine bays don't look complete because there's just like big gaps in the intake. So I'm super happy with this custom piping setup that we can use the Cobb redline intake because it looks so good. Now we have all of the mechanical side of things done, but there's one more thing that we need to do, and it's not gonna happen here. And that is all of our wiring. Let's get this thing on a tow truck. First time the car has moved in like 5 months. It's on a tow truck. That's okay, at least it's moving. So we got almost everything wired up. We're working on getting our ethanol input. We got the fuel relay wired up. We just need to get the fuse in, and then power and ground for the ethanol sensor. And we should be ready for a first start. Fluid's already in. Probably gonna have to fill up that upper coolant reservoir because the thermostat's gonna open. But I think the next clip is gonna be first start.
Okay, I'm gonna start it.
Okay. Fuel pressure? You want me to set fuel pressure?
We already set it before we
It's supposed to be lower now though, right?
started. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. So it's running pretty healthy so far. We're not gonna be able to tune today, but at least we got the first start, and I'm super happy with it because I was super stressed out. I've never assembled a long block, so the fact that it runs clean, it runs healthy, and it sounds great, I'm happy. Let's go. Yep. So we got the ripcord piping all fixed. Just have to put new brackets in place. See here, so we can get better clearance on here so that this wouldn't blow off. That's something that I missed, but it should be all good to go now.
That sounds insane.
On 18 pounds of boost, and it's running a little rich, but dude, this thing is gonna be Okay, so the next couple runs should be our full boost setting. It's going to be around 23, 24 PSI, and this is where we're going to start to make some jam.
not cheap in Tucson. So I didn't get a whole lot of filming after the dyno, but got a little Cars and Coffee, and it's been a hot minute since I've been to Cars and Coffee. So going on a cruise with the boys, and let me tell you guys, honest impressions, this thing rips. It's loud. Honest first impressions, I seriously could not be happier. I mean, I was talking about it with the tuner. Tuner's known me for a while, and if you guys have known me or have followed me since I've been in high school, you've known that I've always been talking about having a built motor, like crazy STI, and it's finally happened. Is this like the fastest car on the planet? No, but is it fun? Yes. And I'm not gonna say that doing the motor build and getting all that done was easy, because it definitely wasn't, especially for someone doing it first time, but it was 100% worth it, and I'm so glad I did it, because this thing is like everything I could have asked for, truly.
showed it, but at the dyno, our final numbers were 510 and 490 something. I'll have to double check. I have the dyno sheet on my phone, but 510 at 24 pounds and a stock location setup. It's pretty good. I know you can make a lot more power in a rotated kit, but honestly, 500 mark is like where it's fun. It's usable on the street. It is something that is not crazy that I can just put down whenever I want to. And I'm happy with it. Dude, check out this. I think this is the charge speed kit, but this GD, crazy clean. It's got the roof scoop, it's wide bodied. This thing is nice. It's so good. It sounds so good. It's crazy too because the HKS valve will literally chirp like that at like 1 PSI of boost. It's crazy. The camera definitely does not do it justice of how that valve sounds, but I mean, that wasn't even any boost. So sick. Well, there you have it, boys. Just finally home. It's good to have this finally done. I seriously could not be happier with the product. 510 in this car is a lot of fun. There's still a couple things that I have to do that I've ordered. I still want to get a oil pressure gauge and a AFR gauge installed just to monitor things, make sure it's healthy. But other than that, this thing's pretty much done. Maybe some minor things here and there, but I really don't plan on doing much else to this. I really like the stock body setup on this car. Some cars just look good OEM. But let me know what you guys think. What else should we do to the STI? I'm pretty happy with where it's at, but I don't know. Maybe there's something else we could do. If you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you guys would hit that subscribe button, drop a comment on what you think of the new setup. And with that, I'm gonna wrap it up for this one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.